The complexity in a consumer business comes from the fact that there are many simple things that play together. And I think I have always felt that whenever there is a big problem, I think it is important for you to step back, figure out what variables are at play, and what is the relative importance of each of these variables. One day, Priya, who used to be the head of beauty and personal care at that point of time, she called me. We had a 1 hour conversation on her telling me is that, Pratik, as we've discussed a lot in the past, I don't think that in our big categories, when we run big brands, we do a good job at incubating or seeding in new brands.
Welcome back to HUL Afterhours. Thank you so much for the love and affection you showed in the first 3 episodes. We have received feedback on 2 broad topics. One is to reduce the amount of jargon which HUL people are infamous for. And second is to go deeper on certain topics. I think today we are going to do that with Future Fit brands. And the person who's here to do that is Pratik Ved. Pratik has spent 15 plus years in HUL, leading brands like Lakme, Glow & Lovely, the oral care category, and doing a very special role which very few people have done in HUL. That role is leading the beauty incubator unit called Premium Beauty Business Unit, or PPBU, in HUL. He's going to share a lot of insights through that experience. He boomeranged back to HUL and leading skincare now. Welcome, Pratik, to HUL Afterhours.
Thanks, Abhinav, for having me.
So, Pratik, I never expected when I came to train in customer marketing when you were at TCM that we will be here and doing this podcast together, but happy to do that. So, Pratik, I'm going to start from the usual questions which we usually ask our guests. Why HUL?
I'll take you a little back in history. Like many people here and in India, I have also done engineering. Not used it much, but yes, I did that. I fell in that trap. When I was in 4th year, I was clear about one thing, that I don't want to get into IT or coding. And the first job which came along, which was not IT, was a job at this company called Blue Star Limited, and they have a very interesting medical electronics division. So I was supposed to be repairing MRI CT scan machines. In 6 months, they shifted me to sales. Not sure why, but clearly
they also decided you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, clearly. So I shifted to, and I started selling MRI CT scan machines in MP. In 1 year, there was a new project which came along where we were supposed to sell bone densitometers. I'm sure you and many of our viewers have seen Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes.
So I have done that.
Wow.
I have carried a machine in train, gone to different parts of the country and tried to sell. Great experience, a lot of learning. Selling to doctors, hospitals, medical practitioners teaches you a lot.
I know that you love that movie a lot. You talk a lot about it, but I didn't know that they had a deeper connection.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I would just like to talk about one moment, right? And this was the time before we all had laptops. We 3 of us in office used to have a shared PC. And one of the things I had done is I had just made 2 slides on what is the proposition of our bone densitometer and why doctors and pharma companies should buy. And when I sent that to, the rest of the group, I got many, this is amazing, this is great. And then when we showed it to customers, we realized that putting something very simply, a message, makes a big difference. And that is where I think the idea of saying that marketing is something where I want to be. So when I went to B school, I was very clear I want to get into FMCG. Yep. There were choices between different companies. I chose HUL because HUL gives more flexibility to do different things in your career. So yeah, that's how I reached HUL.
Wow, that's awesome. I think you talk a lot about figuring things out, on trying to go to the root of the problem, and we've had fights also in the e-com role and when you were heading skincare, but you always say, hey, stop, let's figure out what the problem is. So what is that philosophy like?
Yeah, look, I think I owe a lot to early years in my HUL career to that. I did sales, then I did customer marketing. You spoke about that stint you trained when a lot of your batchmates and colleagues were training with me. I felt that role really laid down the foundation for me on how do you figure things out, right? And I always tell, especially young managers who join us, FMCG is a very easy business. If I say anything, you will understand. Yeah. It's not about, using some great rocket science. It's very easy. The complexity in a consumer business comes from the fact that there are many simple things that play together. And I think I have always felt that whenever there's a big problem, I think it is important for you to step back, figure out what variables are at play, and what is the relative importance of each of these variables. If you are able to do that, you will actually make the right call. And I think for me, that early career in customer marketing, my first brand manager role, just allowed me to create my own framework in my head on how to approach problems, right?
So that's really amazing. But it's clear that you love HUL, right? And when I'm saying, but there was a moment where what we call you as a boomerang, right? You stepped outside, and then that was a surprise, and you came back, which wasn't much of a surprise to me. But what was the trigger, and how was the world outside different?
Yeah, look, I think, like I said, joy of figuring things out, curiosity is one of the things which has always driven me. I did go out, and I must say I had a great time. Also learned a lot more. Also figured out that do your principles hold in a different environment. I must say, I one of the big learnings is you have to adapt
Yeah.
fast. And while for me, adapting before was different categories, different brands. When it's a different company, it's a completely different ball game. I must say, as in there were some successes, there were some failures, but the thing which pulled me back was what really drives me, and ability for HUL to give me an environment where I can be myself but still keep doing that, right?
Yeah.
So I spoke about joy of figuring things out.
Yeah.
I spoke about my passion for getting mentored or mentoring people. Or I also spoke about just the scale of consumer business and being able to be a student
Yeah.
of marketing even 15, 16 years into my career. I thought that is something which pulled me back. And here I am now, 1.5 years back.
Yeah, thanks. Glad that you're back here and that we're doing this podcast. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. I think this also going back to some conversations we had. You said that the brand managers of the old had it easy, right? And the current brand managers in the environment which we have right now are not, having it as easy. If I have to put it in a simple way, why do you say that, and what's changed?
I have a big team of brand managers now. And I always tell them, and whenever I start a meeting or, we were recently at an offsite, the first thing I always say is that I have a lot of gratitude for what you guys do, right? And Abhinav, of course, you've been a brand manager. I think one thing for the viewers in HUL, brand manager is a very, very important role,
Yes.
right? And why? And it is a very coveted job, right? Why is it important? Because the brand manager is not supposed to do marketing on the brand. The brand manager is actually supposed to drive the agenda for that brand in the company.
Yeah.
Right. And when I was a brand manager, I had it easy because it was like driving a car on a well-paved road, right? Because there was television media, there was a bit of outdoor,
Yeah.
we had rural advertising, but it was still, you are driving the car and you're making a little bit adjustment because the road is very well paved, right? Cut back to now, the road is not well paved, right? It is full of potholes. And why has that happened? Because the ecosystem in which India is living, the ecosystem in which our consumers are living, the ecosystem in which we are living is completely different, right? Attention spans are low. Especially after COVID, we all know about the digital revolution. We know about the social revolution. We know about how millennials and Gen Z are so different from each other, which means the job of a brand manager is much more complex.
Yeah.
Because the expectation from the brand manager is still to do that,
Yeah.
but in the new world, right? And I feel that it's hard, but it's still, one of the most fulfilling jobs which you can do.
Yeah, and I think you refer to millennials and Gen Z. So I just want to go a little bit deeper into it, and we actually picked that up with Harman also,
Yep.
who talked about A and A brands for Gen Z and how they are different. I think we are at the cusp where it's not like we can ignore the millennials because bulk of our sales currently come from them. But going back to Byron Sharp's principles, which we all really love, you need to get new users who are going to be a lot of Gen Z. So how do you balance both, and what is different between Gen Z millennials?
Yeah, look, I think in the last 6 months, we've had a lot of reflection. Harman, of course, who's also my boss, in our leadership team, we've had a lot of conversations. I think she also mentioned about the study which we did with Gen Z, how our brands stand. I think the fundamental difference which we have found is that millennials were or are much easier to please,
Okay.
while Gen Zs are not,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
And I think it's coming from a place of their worldview is very different. Their worldview is full of options, and their worldview is coming from a place of opinion,
Okay.
right? While for millennials, and it's all about growing up, I am a millennial, right? Um, and I have two daughters at 11 and 6. At their age, I am sure I was not having the conversations they were having, right? So I just feel that as we go ahead, it's going to get more difficult, and it's super critical for our brands to really appeal to these consumers.
Yeah.
And that's the journey which we are on.
Okay. But I want to go a little bit of, I want to go deeper into it, right? Is there a difference between Gen Z thinking, etc., of, say, urban metro audiences, rural audiences, or tier one audiences? And, does it mean that we need to give away millennials if we have to appeal to Gen Z? So these are the two questions.
Yeah, look, I think, like I said, in marketing, there are many variables at play and you have to choose.
Yeah.
I think the first thing we have come to agree is that the car has to move towards Gen Z, right? So while, of course, millennials are important, we have a lot of segmentation. Our brands have different jobs.
Yeah.
But the reality is that even sizable amount, even of our consumption set today is Gen Z. So the car has to move, the car has to turn. So I think that's the first, big thing we've realized.
Yeah.
The second thing which we have come to realize is that if we are going to do this, we need to do it strategically, and it cannot be one or two campaigns here and there, right? And Sassy, as a framework, I just want to talk a little, in deep about what is that, right? And again,
because we are going to explain the jargon. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so Sassy, SASSY, S stands for superior science. How do we build technology and trust in our products so that they really work, right? A is aesthetics, design first, create desirability for our brands. If they are on the shelf amongst many products, that's the product which should be picked up, even if everything else is same, right? The third S is sensorial. Give that experience when they use the product so that they have to keep going back to it, right? And it's amazing that this is not only true for only beauty or skincare.
Yeah.
It's same for home care. It's the same for foods. When you use the product, are you feeling that, yes, I should use it again, right? So that's third. Fourth one, very interesting, which is said by others, right? Big brands are brands which are shared.
Yeah.
A big brand cannot live in its own palace and be that, right? And I always take a parallel to, the biggest rulers or biggest political leaders. People who are in their palace, leaders who are in their palace, don't end up being the big giant leaders. They have to go out there. Other people have to discuss about them. And that's why said by others is very, very critical. Okay. And finally, why? Why is all about, being young, being part of culture. It's not about, being a brand which is only for the youth, but it's just about having that persona that you are part of culture and you're really into it, right? So this is the framework, right? Which is, in fact, I think the last, I know that you're also using it on your brands. But I just feel that this gives a good direction that if you are turning this car, where do you want to go, right? And I feel it's a good framework. We've been using it. It's not like, I won't say that we have completely succeeded across all the brands, but I think it's in the right direction.
Oh, I know. When HUL makes up its mind, it runs. So it's like an elephant. So that's very clear. But I think you make this point very nicely. You said it is authority versus arm around the shoulder. I think that's a very nice way of putting how a millennial versus a Gen Z sort of sees the brands. So does it mean that every brand in our portfolio needs to be cool and do all that? For example, we have brands from Simple, Lakme, to brands like Gal, to Wheel, to a Lifebuoy, and so on and so forth, right? So what's the difference? How's Sassy different for these brands?
Yeah, look, I think, and again, that's the beauty of having a portfolio plan. So the first, I think the short answer to your question is that do all brands need to be cool? Do all brands need to work with comedians? Of course, the answer is no, right? You might work with everybody, but I think it is super critical that what do you want consumers to think about a brand, right? And I think one of the examples I always give people who are working on these brands is that whenever, let's say, if they're presenting a plan, what will I tell them is that, okay, let's assume you have deployed this plan. 6 months hence, you have a consumer who's sitting right here. What do you want her to say after she has seen the campaign, right? I think that is super critical.
Yeah.
For example, you mentioned Simple, and Simple as a brand, we've, very proud of the journey on the brand. It's there. I want it to be remembered as a brand which gives powerful results, but for sensitive skin, right? And I think that is a super critical for us to drive. We also know that 70 to 80% of consumers who are using Simple today are Gen Z. So we also have to ensure that we reach this consumer in the way, Gen Z expects. Yeah.
I think that's a very important point you're making. What you're saying is because the the buzz and that's what we are also doing, like you said, is said by others is very critical.
Yes.
But when the brand sort of becomes flexible to be, for others to take it over and talk about it, you lose control.
Yes.
Right. And hence, maybe can you talk a little bit about what is that balance? Like, how do you ensure that the brand doesn't get fractured when so many people are talking about it, but at the same time, people do talk about
No, 100%. And said by others, I must say, is a very, it's a very interesting topic. And I have also seen in the last 5-6 years, conversations within the company change so much, right? And like you said, when you're a brand, when you're speaking from a place of authority, when you're building 2, 3, 4 big DBAs on the brand over a long period of time. So it's been a journey. Like many things, we always try to build method to the madness.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you another framework, but we're going to get into the depth of it, like you mentioned.
Yes.
So there is something what we call the 4V framework, which we use here. One is V for volume, V for velocity, V for variety, and V for virality, right? And let's get into each of them, right?
Sure.
So let's start with volume. Some of these numbers are estimated, but let's run with what we have. In India, in skincare, it is estimated that the total other people talking about skincare, the number of impressions in a year is about 50 to 60 billion.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So that's the number of views which are coming when an influencer is speaking about skincare. This can be branded, unbranded, it can be many things, right? This is a big number, right?
Yes,
imagine like 50 billion, right? So it's a big number. So one of the things which we do is we say, and in the past we didn't have this. Share of voice was done for television,
Yes, correct.
for advertising.
Yes.
One of the things we've said is that we need to hit a certain percent of this number. Once you start doing this, and when you start ensuring that in your brand teams this is happening, there is a big shift which happens in how our media choices are made, right? So this is volume. Like almost you have to do things at volume if you want to make a real impact, right? The second one is what we call velocity. Velocity is, in the past, like I said, we made that ad for 8 months. We used that ad for 2 years. Today, 70% of views on a reel come in the first 1 hour, right? For most, that's the average number. Of course, if a reel goes viral, it will be much, much later.
I can imagine why you have so much gratitude for brand managers.
Absolutely, right? And in that, if you're not posting regularly, right, it'll just not work. So you have to be regular. You cannot have a campaign mindset always saying, I'll do it for 2 months, then I'll wait. It has to be always on, right? So that's the second one. The third one is about variety, right? And it's very interesting. And you spoke about what kind of content, do we work with cool people? Do we work with, some scientists? How do we do that, right? And one of the things which we've done is we have said that for every brand, what are the communities which really will connect to that brand? And while there is targeting that community, one of the big things, which is a new concept is you make the content for that community. The content will find the segment.
Okay.
Right. And again, I'm saying it, as if I've, or the team has mastered everything. Of course not. Right? Because you have to figure out. There's a very interesting brand in our stable now called Liquid IV. I don't manage that brand, but my colleagues do. It's a brand which has done very, very well globally. We got it to India, a year back. They have done an amazing job of figuring out what communities will connect with hydration and with this brand, right? They were recently also in Rolling Loud. And it's all coming from this approach of community, and I think they've done a fantastic job of that.
I think it's also about creating the content for the community and let the algo take it to the
exactly. How will content, if your content is good, it will eventually find the consumers. And
Yes.
this is a big shift, but I just want to repeat again. I'm saying it as if it's all figured out. It's not.
Yes.
But that's the framework. That's
Yeah.
the direction
Yeah.
in which, our brands have to really move.
Yeah.
And finally, the holy grail, virality. Again, it's, there's a lot of jokes about this on the internet as well, right? If you plan for a viral campaign, either you will not do the campaign or it will not go viral,
Yes,
right?
correct.
So that's the joke generally. But again, I think the concept there is, while there is volume, while you have to work with, lots of sets of influencers, you have to figure out influencers who are working for your brand.
Yeah.
But you still have to look for big ideas.
Yeah.
For ideas which will create an impact,
Yeah.
which will move mind measures in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So that is 4V. Again, gives a little bit of method to the madness of, like we said, what the brand managers do these days.
Yeah.
To ensure that the brand is spoken by others.
Yeah.
Becomes part of culture.
Yeah.
And hence appeals to what we said, younger consumers, Gen Z.
The fact that we have put data and have a very data-based approach of even approaching influencer marketing with share of voice, with the number of impressions, etc., goes back to the principles which Stan also talked about in his podcast on Sangam, the tool which we use to get cost per incremental reach to be the lowest across different mediums. So I think I just want to delve a little bit deeper on that, because I think HUL brands are slightly different, right? At least the brands which are not like simple, for example, say a Lux or
Yes.
or a Glow and Lovely or a Pond's, where you can't let go of TV still, because that's also still big. But at the same time, you need to bring in others. See, you need to bring in Meta, Google, you need to bring in outdoors, rural wall paintings. Everything has to work in tandem. So how do you sort of make choices between them, or how does it?
Yeah, look, again, and very early in my career, we had this theme in marketing saying the best marketeers get logic and magic together, right? And the logic side is super critical, especially when we are, I feel very responsible, like, many, in fact, all category heads in HUL, that the amount of money which we spend to really drive our brands forward, right, is a lot. And why the logic, why the data driven marketing is required? Because for us, like you said, a lot of brands are very big.
Yeah.
And in many cases, the growth actually ends up coming from the last person we reach, right?
Yeah.
So we have brands in our company where the penetration itself, the household penetration of those brands will be 60, 70.
Yeah.
Right? I know, work on brands which have, very high penetration, right? So while there's always a job with current consumer, but there will also be job with the last consumer who has to come in.
Yes.
And for that, we need reach as well.
Correct.
Right? And hence, I would say, recently me and Tejas, who's our media head, right, we're having this conversation where what is the HUL way of media planning, right? And the answer is the favorite answer which we always give, that it depends on the job to be done.
Yes.
Correct? You cannot say that, this is HUL's approach.
Yeah.
And which is why it is super critical for us to segment. And I must say that, like you mentioned about Sangam, there are many other things, within the company on clearly defining what is the job to be done and what is the best, not cheapest, most effective way of doing that job to be done with the media vehicles we have. Right? And which is why if you take HUL, yes, HUL still does rural, the wall paintings. Yes, we also work on Snap as a medium, right?
And we also go to Rolling Loud. Yeah.
And of course we go to Rolling Loud as well, and many of such things, and it all depends on the job to be done. Which is there on each of the brands, right? And like you mentioned, even Pond's and Lifebuoy, even these two brands, seemingly you might say they're all big brands, but even they have very, very different deployment approach as we go forward.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. And I think that's another important point, right? Others say, or what you said is not just Instagram or influencers only on Meta, right? It also talks about Moj. There's also other vehicles which are coming up where, we really need to reach the consumer through different types of content. I just want to talk, before we move topic, on this interesting campaign of GAL, which is about this influencers. You can be an influencer at any point in time. So can you just...
So Abhinav, one of the things we've come to realize, right, is that with this influencer ecosystem, what consumers think about influencers has also, changed a lot. And one of the big insights is that today, young women want to wield influence, right? And what does that mean, right? And wielding influence is not about being a social media influencer.
Yeah.
In the past, it was about I want to step out of the house and I want to achieve something in life.
Yeah.
That has moved.
Mm.
That I want to wield influence. When I speak, I want 20 people to listen to me, right? And of course, one of the ways it has really blown up is the influencer ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
There are times when we go to rural consumer households, and there is always this young girl who uses her dad's smartphone to put out some reels, right? Her aspiration is absolutely same as the girl in Lucknow or the girl in Pune, or for that matter, the girl in Bombay. But maybe the access and of course there is income disparity, so she might not have the money, but she will put out a reel from her dad's phone, right? So I think this ability to wield influence is something which we've realized is a big shift which has happened. Coupled with this, so when Fernando, our global CEO, when he was here, he had given us a challenge saying, if the influencer ecosystem in the country is growing so much, can we almost have an influencer in every pin code in the country?
Okay.
Right? And that was the challenge, and
only HUL can do that.
Correct, yeah.
Scale.
I must say it was a really audacious goal, right? Because we are always thinking about, otherwise how do we use the ecosystem to drive our brands, right? This was pushed to say, okay, can we lead the ecosystem? So we started on this journey, and again the media team has done a lot of work along with the Glow and Lovely team to reach a place where we are on this journey.
Yeah.
In fact, we have also reached out to people. We have done a campaign. If you Google it up or ask ChatGPT what is Glow Up Academy, it'll tell you can actually go there and apply.
Yeah.
And become part of this program where we're starting to train people to be influencers.
Wow. Okay.
And stuff. So I think that's the journey. But I think the big insight is that women want to wield influence these days.
And I think that's beautiful, because you talked a lot about consumer insights in our podcast, and trying to go behind why this influencer ecosystem has exploded as much in India.
Yeah.
To craft that to saying that, okay, women, or not only women, everyone wants to wield influence. And how do we play that game is actually very interesting. And even for me, it gives a very different mindset as to how we approach marketing, or how we talk to the consumer. So it's no longer the consumer as a partner in the brand's journey rather than we selling something to her.
Yeah.
I think that's a big difference. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to shift track a little bit, because I think you're one of the very few people who have done a very interesting role in HUL, which is the premium beauty business unit, right? First of all, it's a mouthful. So I'll ask you, why did you name it such? And second, can you tell me what this is all about, and how did it start, and how did you?
Yeah, look, again, like everything, this also has a story. We are in middle of COVID. I was the oral care category head. We had a bit of a tough time in the category in terms of our business results. And after a long time, a lot of hard work, we were starting to be in a better place. Close-up was starting to come back. And, I was in that frame of mind that, okay, now finally, I'm going to,
chill.
Yeah, okay. Or probably work a little lesser.
Yeah.
But, that of course didn't happen. And one day Priya, who used to be the head of beauty and personal care at that point of time, she called me and we had a 1 hour conversation on her telling me is that, Pratik, as we've discussed a lot in the past, I don't think that in our big categories, when we run big brands, we do a good job at incubating or seeding in new brands, right? And while we have some successes, but we have had more failures for sure in the past, right? And she told me that it is super critical for us that this is done by a separate team, right? And I want you to lead this team. And I was, I'm the kind of person who will say that, okay, I'll think for a week and come back. And she told me, no, you have to speak to Sanjeev tomorrow, who was the CEO then. That's what. So, and next day happened. And then I said, okay, I'll do it, because of course it sounded very interesting. And I was also given a lot of safeguards of saying, okay, if it doesn't work out, it's okay, and stuff like that, right? So I think that again was great from the organization, and yeah, I did that, and then when I did my handovers in the older category, and I came here, and then I realized I have no clue what to do, right? Because you always, in HUL, when you move, you're taking over a business. So there's someone to tell you, the journey so far,
on someone's shoulder,
right? But there's nothing, and I must tell you, for 1 month, I was the only person in that unit, because I was told, okay, you'll have 15 people, figure out how much in marketing, how much in sales was the structure, working with the HR team and stuff. But for 1 month, I was like, okay, I need to figure out, right? So it was a great start to the journey, a great story as well. But look, I think the idea of the unit was then that we have many brands globally. We can create brands here locally. But how can we seed in new brands? How can we create that capability of, let's say, 0 to 1, 0 to 10 crores, 0 to 20 crores? And can we do that? We have many ideas of different kind of demand spaces we want to play in beauty. But if we, put it in our mothership, our big engine, we invest a lot. How can you have an asset light model? How can you really change supply chain capability? So a lot of that was there, and I think it was a great experience for me, for sure, for those 2 years.
Yeah, I think it goes back to your joy of figuring things out.
Yeah.
Right, and hence they just put you into that and said, okay, figure things out and let us know what to do.
Yeah.
Can you take us a little bit through the journey? Like, how did you figure these?
I also want to probably I will start by talking about the tough things.
Yes.
Right, because sometimes on these podcasts we might all sound very wise and figured out, but look, it was tough. Right from figuring out what kind of people should we have in this unit. Should we have internal people? Because we know in HUL we have great people.
Yeah.
Right? Or should, who can actually figure things out and who can solve tough problems when you are given focus. Or you get people from outside who have done this in the past, right? Supply chain. And like in, very big organizations, and I always remember again, in big organizations, immunity is built in the organization. Right? So what does that mean? That, if anything new starts to happen, for the right reasons, it's right, you actually try to kill that, right? And then, but when we want to do something, it's almost like an autoimmune disease, that the company's immunity comes against you, right? And I thought that was a great parallel, right? So all of that happened, right? It's very difficult, people will say, you don't have a business today, I have a business of 20,000 crores to manage, why are you talking to me? All of that happens, right, in an organization. But I must say that the patience which was shown in the initial 6-7 months, we put down a very clear plan saying what kind of brands we want to try. We put down, okay, what kind of supply chain resource we want, why procurement has to be completely different. You have to open up. So I just felt that the experience, not only for me and the team, but also for the larger organization, was good in terms of, opening up to newer things. And there were successes, there were failures. In fact, the brand we spoke about, Simple, there's another brand called Love, Beauty and Planet, which got scaled and now have become part of the mothership. Yes. Right? But they were
scaling. Right?
Yeah. So one of them, of course, I am scaling. And that was the idea. And there were brands like, we did a brand called Find Your Happy Place, which was a self-care, experiential bath and body brand. We did it for a bit, but then we realized that maybe the strategic fit is not as strong.
Yeah.
So I think we took those calls. Great journey. One other offshoot of that is that today a lot of people who were in that team have actually gone to different, teams. Yeah. And I think almost become the evangelists for, some of the newer ways of marketing.
No, like you said, I think a lot of muscle has gotten built into the organization because of that. Because, when I was in ecom and, I worked with Sai, who was leading PPBU at that point in time, I think the way in which the team thought compared to the others was very different, right? I know you started getting language like product market fits, influencer marketing, etc., come into HUL's terminology for the first time. People started using it. People started pushing us. Our S&OP discussions were very different. Our procurement, supply chain discussions were very different. I think a lot of output has also come, right? For example, nano factories in supply chain was a huge unlock for us because, we never knew how to make things lower than a few tons, right? And hence, that was a big output. Like you said, people fanned out in different parts of the organization. My counterpart currently, Sikta, actually worked with you and he's leading body wash for us, which is doing quite well. So I think But what are if I had to say 3-4 learnings from this,
Yeah.
right? Which
Look, I think before I get there, you mentioned supply chain, right?
Yes.
And I must tell you about HUL supply chain.
Yeah.
There were a lot of difficulty in that period across, but supply chain aced it, right? And this nano factory concept, and I must say that now we have multiple nano factories. They set up this nano factory and it was so amazing. What was the idea of a nano factory, right? Generally, we have machines, which have very high output, right? So you will make many sachets or fill many bottles in a minute, right? From there, now you are asking that I don't want speed.
Yeah.
What I want is that I want to make 5,000 units of this today, but tomorrow I want to make something else.
Yeah.
Right. And that itself for a supply chain behemoth like us is difficult. But, again, great. The team did an amazing job. It was almost like a modular line, right? So, for example, okay, you want to fill in this bottle? Okay, fill. Then I can take just that part out and I can put something else, right?
Yeah.
And just fundamentally, like if as marketeer you ask me, I think I'll take a bit more time to, adjust to what my beliefs are. So I think that was a great job. But I think one of the big learnings from there was that if you actually put a very clear problem with a small team of people, right? That initial conversation which happens, right, can be done much faster.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what happens is that, smaller problems actually too many people are working on.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that was one big learning is that, okay, give a problem to 3-4 people who are smart, who are motivated to solve the problem. The first 80-85% of the job actually happens quite fast. Yeah. The second thing was that, it was a very humbling experience, Abhinav. I'll tell you why. When you work in bigger categories in HUL, right, there is so much support you get from everybody, right? Because the whole organization is built like that to support the categories and, to do what they want to do. When you go there, that support of capabilities suddenly, vanishes. Right. So, for example, one of the big humbling experiences for me was after working on big brands, advertising, high reach, having big budgets. Suddenly I come here and say, okay, my budget is really small and I'm actually looking for 3 influencer reels.
Yeah.
Which can, get to 100 million views.
Yes, that's true.
100K views. Right. And
you can't even say.
100 million, of course, at that time was very, very high. 100K views. I think it was a really, really humbling experience as well.
Yeah.
And I think one of the learnings is that the capabilities in HUL which are created around are just amazing.
Yeah.
And how do we create newer capabilities going forward, I think was very important.
Consumer testing is something which you said very nicely, right? Because it depends upon the job, right? You can't go with the playbook with HUL and say that, hey, because of this experience, you don't do consumer testing, just go ahead and launch it. Let's see what happens. Big brands with certain jobs require the consumer testing because you have a lot to lose, right? And that's a risk reward factor. These brands, you don't have that risk, right? When you want to, scale simple from say 10 to 100 crores. And hence the consumer testing methodology needs to be different, right? And hence it's horses for courses. It again depends upon the job. And I think that's something which is amazing within HUL, that you get to experience these different kinds of brands, different kinds of jobs, and learn everything at the same time. So,
look, I think it's almost like when you're doing consumer testing for brands, right? There are 2 reasons you do it for, right? One is you are trying to, let's say, improve something. It might be product, it might be advertising, right? The action standards, as we call them, right? That what do you have to achieve in the consumer testing results needs to be superiority, right? The other place is that you are saying that, okay, I'm making a change for, some reason. It might be a competitive reason, it might be a consumer reason, but I want to manage risk. Correct?
Yeah.
Now, that action standard is very, very different. Now, depending on the scale of the risk, if the brand is very big, it's wide, of course, you will take care, you will spend time to perfect it, because that one decision might set you back by 1 year, 2 years, right?
Yeah.
But when it is for, and again, it's not only 2 extremes.
Yeah.
There's one extreme is very big brand risk. Second is just a new brand, let's just do it, go with the gut. And then there is everything in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's one of the key tasks for all of us as marketeers and consumer business leaders is to also take that call.
Yeah.
That when what is required.
Yeah. And the scale of HUL helps because you have multiple brands across the life cycle.
No, and also so much to learn, right? Like our consumer insights function, for example, Ketki, who helps us manage that for beauty and well-being. She has connect with all the other consumer insight leader partners, and I think lot actually is can be learned from there.
Yes, that's true. So on that contemplative note, if you are mentoring, if I have to say, a poor brand manager today whom you have a lot of gratitude for, what is your advice, right? What's one skill or mindset they should be
for a brand manager?
Brand manager, any young person who's wanting to get into HUL.
Yeah, so I think
maybe different things.
Different things.
Brand manager first, then young person who's wanting to getting into.
Yeah, look again. I think for a brand manager today, first is just like I said, keep your eyes and ears open, because good ideas can come from anywhere. The second thing is being the evangelist for the brand within the organization and within the ecosystem. Yeah. Right. To create that advocacy is more important than ever. Yeah. Right. And I it's very difficult. Yeah. But I think the good brand managers actually really focus on that. Right. Yeah. And finally, ensure that common sense prevails, because in this so much madness, that's the best. That's the best shoulder to put your head on, I feel. That's what I would say. And for a person who's just sitting in campus right now and wanting to join us, look, I think in this world of width, so getting depth even in one or two or three topics, I think, because if you start doing that as a discipline, as a habit, I think it'll hold you in good stead in the new world. Because when we go to campuses, a lot of times people ask that, what do you look for? Yeah. I just feel that we look for, even in one or two things, if you are able to get into level 2, level 3 of the conversation of why, I think that's what. So get into depth at least for 2 or 3 things, because width is getting democratized. It is getting democratized. I think that's very well put. And so Pratik, on popular demand from your team and others, we have to do some fun questions with you, and it's rapid fire. So let's see how that goes. Okay. Since you have done both types, launch now, learn later, or test till perfect? Launch now, learn later. Okay. Top India Gen Z or tier 2-3 Gen Z? Who's tougher to crack? Both. 0 to 1 chaos or 100 to 500 scale of grind? What do you like better? Tough choice, but I'll choose 100 to 500. 100 to 500. Okay. One viral collab or 10 safe variant extensions? One brand collab. One brand collab. Okay. Joy of figuring or panic of no playbook? Oh, joy of figuring. Joy of figuring. Yeah, I think that answer I need. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, ending on that note, thank you so much, Pratik. Thank you.